Gordon Tallis has leapt to the defence of Kevin Walters after reports emerged of a rift between the Broncos coach and head of football Ben Ikin. Tallis is adamant that no one in the organisation should have more power than the coach.
All these guys that, what are they called, football managers or whatever they called?
Director of football, football manager,
of football, right?
Whatever title you
that
want to
is
give
a
it.
made-up title. It's absolutely made up. Basically, you should be a lackey for the coach unless you feel good. So they all think that they're Phil Gould. Let me tell you something. Phil Gould's role is just made up for Phil Gould. Like Phil Gould can go into a club and do everything, and it's very rare that you've got someone like Phil.
Yeah, Gordy there, great mates with Kevy Walters, a little bit critical of Benny Ikin and his role up there at the Broncos. How do we see these comments from Big Gordy?
Oh, I think they're a little bit misguided. You know, look, it's difficult for me to talk because I'm friends with Kevy, I'm friends with obviously Ben Ikin, obviously friends with Gordon.
Yeah.
But I just, look, general manager of football, which is the role Ikin's got, is an increasing role in the game, and it will continue to become a bigger role in the game because the job is too big now for just the head coach to run a football club and to run a football program. That's why they have the physios and they have trainers and strength and conditioning guys and they have all that. It's too big a job. And there is a specialised role there that Ikin has taken on at Brisbane and he needs to be allowed to do his job. And Kevy Walters is still, for all intents and respectfully, he's still a very inexperienced coach. He's still learning how to do the job. So he really does need help, Kevy. And I think there's been an acknowledgement, I think, between the two in the past few weeks that they do need each other and that they will begin working more closely with each other as that report revealed.
How did it get to this point?
I think the genesis of this beef, Braith, started when Ben Ikin was hired without Kevin Walters' knowledge. So Dave Donaghy went and had a round of golf with Ben Ikin, offered him the role, told him that it would be an overarching general manager, director of football, whatever you want to call it, style of a role, and then went
Which the Broncos need.
And yeah, absolutely they need. But then Kevy was frozen out of that. Kevy didn't know until Ben Ikin had already been employed. Then when Ben got in there, if you remember last season, he was sitting on the sidelines at games. He looked quite heavily involved in the hands-on running of the team and the day-to-day goings-on. But this season, we haven't seen Ben Ikin anywhere near.
But a lot of football general managers, a lot of football general managers are hands-on on game day, particularly. You see Frank Panisi on the sideline, you see Mark Ellison on the sideline, and I think it's a sign of a bit of insecurity from Kevy here. And I thought Gordy was way out of order. We worked here with Ben Ikin for a long period of time. He's got a great football IQ. He was hired there to do a job. I think Kev needs help. I think Kev needs to concentrate on coaching the football side, which was with Adam Reynolds, who's obviously helping him out, and let Ben Ikin do the strategic stuff. Look, I don't have a huge rap on their chief executive, Dave Donaghy, and I'm not being rude here, because
he's the problem,
well, hold on. Commercially, he's a really good operator, but he's not a footy head. And this is where Ben Ikin was brought into the club to bring that Frank Panisi, Ellison, that expertise.
I don't think Gordy was way out of order, Buzz. What Gordy was doing was defending his mate. In relation to Dave Donaghy, you make a very good point. Dave was the one who hired Ben without informing Kevy that he was going to do so. Dave was also the one who extended Kevy's contract and put that 3-month clause in it. Now, Ben, you would think, as the director of football, should have been across that. Well, he was frozen out of all of those negotiations.
I think the big reason behind the friction between Kevy and Ikin is because both have not had, the other has not been clearly informed what the other's job is by the CEO. I think he's looking after this guy and looking after this guy without actually being clear on what each person's job is. So Kevy, I think at times has thought Ikin was overreaching. Ikin has clearly thought he's been unable to do his job. Both thought they had the go-ahead from the CEO to do the job they thought they were doing, when in fact they're crossing over into each other's territory. And I think that needs to be clarified and cleared up.
Wasn't it the Brisbane Old Boys who got Kevy the job?
Well, they lobbied.
Campaigned strongly.
And now the Brisbane Old Boys. And look, I love Gordy Tallis. He's entitled opinion. He's outspoken. He knows what he's talking about. I just think he's overstepped here.
I disagree. He's defending his mate. He would defend Kevy until the end of the earth.
Yeah, but sometimes in this game, Jim, you've got to forget who your mates are, and you've got to
No, you stick by your mates, Phil. Anyway, that's all right if you want to throw people under the bus.
Well, what do you mean throw people under the bus? Who am I throwing under the bus?
Why would Gordon Tallis not defend Kevin Walters, who he's gone into battle with, won 3 premierships with?
Because
why would he not stand up for his mate?
What you got to do, James, when you work in the media, you got to have a wider view outside your mates. You've got to look at what's wrong with the Broncos, and you've got to tell it as it is. And if Kevy's in the wrong or Ben Ikin's in the wrong, but you can't let, you always look after your mates, but you can't let friendships cloud your opinion on things. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And I thought his spray was too heavy. Calling Ben Ikin a lackey.
He didn't say that.
Well,
he didn't say Ben Ikin is a lackey. He didn't say that.
What did he say?
Well,
he said he needs to be a lackey for the coach, which I don't agree with. As I said, I think the job is... Look, if you go and look around the world, at other sports around the world, they've all got these people in these roles now because, as I said earlier, the job has got too big for a head coach to come in. And even a guy like Wayne Bennett, who's been coaching for 30 years and had more time in the game than anybody, Craig Bellamy, the best coach in the game, they've all got people who help. You need those people there. You can't be Kevin Walters, second year into your job, trying to sit there and say, you know what? I'm going to do the whole lot of my own. It's just too big a job.
Best thing about Ben Ikin, and we all know Ben extremely well, he looks at life, football, whatever the issue is, through a different prism and through a different lens. And I actually think Ben's intellect would be really good for Kevy if they did get on the same page and they are prepared to work together, because he'll challenge him. But as long as they both know that they're all doing it for the betterment of the club, they want the Broncos to be successful.
I agree. I think Ikin adds a lot of value, and if they can get it right up there and get on the same page, they can start doing some really good things. Are they okay now? Are they?
Well, my understanding, I've spoken to Ikin. I clearly still speak to him fairly regularly. Not that we've spoken a lot about this, but my understanding was this review, while at one point it was correct, I think it's all, by the time this story's come out, it had all been resolved. My understanding is that they've sorted it all out.
Well, they got called in to Red Hill last Monday, and they had to have a clear the air meeting. Everybody had to put their cards on the table. They walked out of that. They were both spotted at the football at the East Tigers game on Saturday. I think that was probably a little bit strategic because they knew that this story was coming.
I think they're both prepared to actually start working together.
Which is good for the Broncos. That can only be a good thing.
Look, for how long though, Kenty? You've got to work out the power struggle. That's what you've got to work out, the power struggle.
That's not a power struggle, Buzz.
Well, wasn't Ikin dirty that he had no...
I don't think there was clear demarcation in their jobs. I think Ikin thought his job was this over here, and Kevy thought it was over here, and there was an overlap there that they both thought was their job, and I think that's now been sorted out. So I think it's all sorted out now. My understanding is it's all been sorted out, and that they're back on the same page. You know, they understand what each other's role is. They understand what each has got to do now to make the Broncos a better place. And there are clearly some problems there. They fell off a cliff this year. They do need to work hard, the Broncos. There's already been changes made. We've seen Terry Batterson's been tapped on the shoulder and let go. And also Steve Walters has stepped down, resigned as the football manager. So there are changes at the Broncos. There need to be changes at the Broncos. There needs to be leadership at the top. Donaghy's got to sit in. He's got to say, you know what, Ben, this is your job. Go and do it. Kevy, this is your job. Go and do it.
You know what I was saying, Kenty, why I thought Kevy was being a bit insecure? If I had a bloke like Ben Ikin and I was head coach in the next office, I'd be going banging on his door and saying, "What can we do, mate? What can we do?" I'd be sucking his brain.
And vice versa. Kevy's got input on the sort of players he'd want Ikin to go out and get. He's entitled to have that.